My friend Alison works on a project called Seeds for Development, and we partner up with Seeds. Pop-Up Farm partners up because she's one of the directors in Pop-Up as well. And Seeds has been working since the end of the civil war in Uganda. And me and Alison go back a long time because I met her first when I was in Somalia in '95. And we were doing some work then on what ended up as a camel school project. It was one of those crazy ideas that Westerners have, that you'll go and work with governments in another part of the world in a war zone. And I was doing postdoc study in war zones, and it was one of those things. So I tended to go to dodgy places and ended up in Somalia, a bit like Quadra, you know. And we started playing around with this idea of camel school, and we were given some money to set schools up after the Civil War. And the obvious thing was, don't build schools, because they're nomadic people. You know, camels were the most obvious thing to do. So we ended up working with these people on thinking about using camels, bunging a bender tent on the back of the camel, moving around with people, and effectively creating a mobile school system, which Kenya then took up, which was quite fun. Anyway, this, to cut a long story short, Pop-Up Farm Latenga in Uganda is in northern Uganda. It's been a war zone for 20-odd years, and I'm going to come back to this later on in this story this afternoon. This is to show you where the dinners are made, okay? This school was completely derelict and still is in a terrible state. We've started working with it since January, and we're just beginning to do some planting and activity around it. But it's just an indication of the sort of environment within which lots of kids around the world work.
You used to have to go all the way down to the bottom to get water, but they dug a well, which I'll show you.
Well, there's kids behind her, following her along.
Here's the school. Look.
This is the
what
kitchen.
What happens is, they put their plate in this window, and then they get their food out of that window. Hello, cow. Hang on, let's go in. Actually, this huge thing was bought with money raised by Hannah, my niece.
Hannah's from Send a Cow, another project.
So they do their cooking in here. Beans. Beans grown by the farmers who are Seeds for Development farmers, funnily enough.
Okay, so that's the school kitchen. The interesting thing about the school is that most of the kids, I reckon 98% of the kids are orphans. Their parents were all killed in the war or mutilated in the war, and really they're being looked after by the children rather than actually contributing positively. The project is really interesting in as much as it's one of 60 new projects that we're starting in that part of northern Uganda. And we started this big project, Pop-Up Farm, in the poorest bit of Africa that we could find. At the same time as we started it in the richest bit of the richest part of the world, the West, in England. And it's, you know, it's a wealthy country. We happen to be in one of the poorer neighbourhoods of England, but basically compared to this, it's incredibly rich. And so it's an interesting exercise in comparison and analysis and sharing. And what I'll go into this afternoon are just some of the ways in which that sort of has been experimented with. I'll show you one more little film. In fact, we'll go on to this film straight away and we'll just carry on from here because my technology is...
Good. Now, I just wanted to ask you some questions about your Farmers Club. Okay, so I'd like to ask one of you, what's the best thing about the Farmers Club?
The best thing in the Farmers Club, we learn how to plant crops. We learn how to plant crops in good methods, like practicing agroforestry.
Wow.
And we plant many crops like banana plants, maize, and greens, vegetables for our staff to enjoy.
And do you eat them as well in the school?
Enjoy.
Yes.
Yes? Ah, good. And yes?
In the Young Farmers Club, we learn so many things so that we can share with our family.
Oh, okay, so let me ask one of the other ones.
Let me ask one of the other ones, and you know what happens? She comes back in again.